MyCore is on a mission to be the world's most people-centric company. The purpose of this podcast is to get to the core of people. I'm your host, Nathan Bourne, and I invite you to join me as we deep dive into the personal and professional lives of our guests. We're going to learn who they are, why they exist, and what they do. We're going to hear their stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In other words, we're going to talk to some really cool people. Welcome to the MyCore podcast. Hello. Nathan Bourne here, the MyCore podcast. Welcome to episode 22, conversation 22. I am doing this one on my own because tomorrow is Memorial Day and today is Sunday, and I have been in the studio all weekend grinding, making a sacrifice, frankly, of my Memorial Day weekend because I believe so heavily in what we do at MyCore. And I could go into specifically what I was doing, but it required the studio, the lights, camera, action, and my new shirt. It required that. And the shirt that I switched into back and forth between the videos. And I thought, I don't want tomorrow to come and us not have an episode, even though I did not interview anyone this past week. I try to stay consistent, and our new president has me working hard to be able to drop an episode every single Monday. And it just got me thinking as I was kind of pondering and switching gears to do this solo episode. I have a few things that I want to just articulate and express. But it got me thinking about sacrifice and what that really means and what that really takes. And I think a lot of times we don't give it the proper attention. We don't give it the gravity that it deserves. So in the vein and in the spirit of Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend, I thought we would have a conversation about this. Obviously, I'll be talking to myself, but hopefully it gets your wheels turning and gets you thinking and pondering. So it goes without saying that this weekend is a way in which we memorialize people that have given the ultimate sacrifice to protect our country, to protect our way of life, to protect our Constitution, to protect our rights. And regardless of where you sit on the political scale, regardless of your view of the State of the Union, we're blessed to live in America. We are fortunate to live on the greatest place on the planet. And I think that if we take a beat, we take a moment, and we really recognize the sacrifice that has gone into preserving this land and preserving this way of life. And I'll be the first to say our country is far from perfect. I'm convinced there's corruption. Of course, there's conspiracy. There's probably a deep state. I mean, it's probably pretty nasty and pretty ugly. But look at the rest of the world. It's not like everyone else is doing a whole lot better. And I'm not saying that that's okay to just compare it to the worst of them. But to think that we, over the past few hundred years, had to shed so much blood, both our own and our enemies, to preserve this space. And these aren't hypotheticals or hyperboles. I mean, this is like real sacrifice, real death, real loss. And you just have to think, well, what is worth sacrificing for? What is worth dying for, giving your life for? I mean, it's a heavy question. I don't have the answers. But I know that above all else, I think we will sacrifice for the people that we love. I think we'll sacrifice for our families. we'll sacrifice for our children. We'll sacrifice for the children's children's children that we haven't even met and never will, our legacy. I mean, heck, think about all the sacrifices that were made from your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-great. I mean, you can't even track it. You couldn't even know it. It's not like Ancestry.com gives you every choice they ever made, every hard thing they ever did, every sacrifice that they made. So in just thinking about the people that have come before us generationally, and then the people that right now are making sacrifices to be away from their family, to be in foreign lands, to serve their country. And that gives us the opportunity to build a business, to work from anywhere, to make money, to sit in a studio and wear your new bowling shirt. I mean, come on, this stuff is easy compared to being in a foxhole in World War II. This stuff is a cakewalk compared to Vietnam. So I think in all leadership and in all pursuit of happiness, there's a prerequisite of gratitude. That possessing an attitude of gratitude, exercising your gratitude muscle, is a daily practice, like an hourly practice, multiple times a day. It's so important, I have found, to breathe in and to breathe out and to just thank God that you're alive. And then to start to process, take inventory, and think, what are the things in my life that are worth dying for? And if you can find some things that are worth dying for, then you probably can find some things that are worth living for, right? Like if I were to ask you the question, would you take a bullet for your spouse? Would you take a bullet for your children? I don't think there's even a question. You wouldn't hesitate for a second. I mean, definitely not for the children, maybe for the spouse, but right. So, I mean, we'll keep the example really potent. You would absolutely do that. As a mother, as a father, you just wouldn't even question it. And yet we won't take rejection. We won't take ridicule. We won't take a no or a not yet. It's kind of amazing, right? That people would give their actual lives for the people that they love when they're in harm's way. But then they won't do the work on a regular basis to provide the life that their children deserve, that their family deserves. So I want to get into this a little bit, and I want to just do my usual stream of consciousness and hopefully rattle your cage a little bit. I'm not talking about working nonstop, certainly not working just for the sake of working. But I think that our country and our world needs a checkup from the neck up when it comes to work ethic. And one thing I really like about work ethics is it's an ethic. It's like a character, a personality, or a quality in your character. It's not just a buzzword or a strategy or an approach. It's got to be hardwired into who you are. So how are ways that the leaders, the movers, the shakers, the people that listen to this podcast and vibe with me can level up, can deepen their commitment, deepen their devotion? I think there's some practical ways to do this. And if you're somebody that's said, I'm hearing you, Nathan, I've been feeling kind of down. I've been feeling less lit up. maybe I'm burnt out or feel like I'm burning out. By the way, if you didn't know, fun fact, we now have a second podcast that MyCore produces called The Chairman. It is a podcast co-hosted by myself, Nathan Bourne, and our president, Ned Eric. We are actually recording here in a few minutes. He's going to be at the studio, arriving episode 8. So it's fresh, but it's really taking off. And I think that people are enjoying the conversations because they're candid. They are fun, kind of silly at times, but we really get into the depth of these topics that are meaty. The MyCore podcast tends to be more like who-based, right? We're getting to the core of people. We're talking about their stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the topics are always kind of varied. If you've listened to the 21 episodes prior to this, then you've seen a variety of stories, sometimes talking about business or marketing, other times talking about like addiction, suicide, loss, pain, trauma, abuse, like some heavy duty things. I mean, it's been quite a journey for me this past year as I've launched and maintained and continued to grow the MyCore podcast and hold this space. It's been really, really cool. While I'm just giving some updates, we hit a really cool metric that is kind of unbelievable, but by producing 21 episodes, it has put us in the top 1% of podcasts, because statistically, most podcasts, believe it or not, 90% will never even publish their first episode. They get everything set up, but they never do it. And only another 9% go on to publish 20 more episodes. I think I'm messing those statistics up now I think about it. It's actually 90% only do one. That's what I meant to say. And then 9% do another 20. So when you get past 21%, i.e. this 22nd episode right here, right now, you're in rare air. And I'm not really that concerned with like podcast stats. What I am fascinated by there is how few people will do the work and make the sacrifice and go the distance. And I don't think it's because they have weak minds or because they're slack ass. I think it's because there's a wiring, a bit of a sequence of things that aren't in place for them to enact the drivers, to fuel the tank, to fill yourself up in a way that you have this renewable resource that makes you want to keep going, not just because you have to or you're gonna grind it or I can't be stopped, but because you want to, but because you're compelled to. So we were talking about burnout on, I think, our last episode, episode 7. You should go check it out. And I was struggling with this topic, so I thought I would give it some space in this moment and then connect it to sacrifice. So I struggled because what I wanted to say was, welcome to the Chairman Podcast. This episode is all about burnout and how to overcome it. Here's how you do it. Don't be a wimp. Suck it up. Buttercup. Get over it. Bye. End of episode. But I knew that that was incredibly naive and insensitive, and it's not true. It's not even true for me, right? And I fancy myself pretty tough. So as we unpacked it, processed it, had conversation around it, there's all kinds of great insights there. And I'll tell you, we didn't really land on anything. I don't think that either of us were like, we know the answer. It was just something that we wanted to grapple with. But one of the things that I feel and felt in that moment when I hear about people being burnt out is I think it's because they're not tapped in to who they are and why they exist in a way that wakes them up in the morning inspired. in a way that makes them feel like sleep is a inconvenience to their mission and to their calls. And I think that there's a lot of power in that. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to find that energy when you peel back those layers. But I think there's more to it. And I want to just frame it out a little bit. There's a lot of conversation around your why, right? Your purpose. And that's important. I'm not discounting the why. I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. I read his book, Start With Why, years ago, and I loved it so much that it inspired me to set out to debunk it for the rest of my life. And I say that with the utmost respect, because I think it was the first version of a school of thought that I have now coined and am writing the book Lead With Who. I also just started the Lead With Who newsletter to help me finish the book, frankly, because there's some major topics that I can write in like short form that I think will just help me compile the concepts and put them into a cohesive book. But also because I finally felt like, you know what, I need to get this out there more. I need to be sharing this message. I'm getting a lot of great feedback, a lot of awesome traction. I will drop the link into this episode, and I'd love for you to subscribe to the newsletter. You just have to pop your email in there and you'll be in the know. But considering this one's going to drop tomorrow, Memorial Day, I'll put the first newsletter that I wrote. And the title of that newsletter was No, No, No. And I won't try to recap that, just read it. But what I'm trying to connect these thoughts here is that it's not about your purpose alone. It's about your identity. It's about who you are. And when you can unbecome and really like distill and boil down and just work through those layers, and this is hard work, by the way. This is like a life practice. This isn't something you do over a weekend in Tulum with some ayahuasca. I mean, this is like all day or a day you're thinking about this and finding the connections and, you know, praying and meditating and then like doing work and looking for the signs and connecting the dots and, you know, really just threading it all together. So it's super duper hard work, but it's worth it, because when you get tapped into that, you've hit this well, you've hit this vein, you've struck this gold, so to speak, where you can go dip into that well and find the energy. But there's still a caveat here, and I want to just speak to it because I think it could be a missing piece, even if you do feel like you know who you are and why you exist. What I have found in moments when I just don't feel like doing it, which is way more than I'd like to admit, the thing that gets me like up out of that state and keeps me moving forward and putting one foot in front of the next foot, it's not my purpose. It's not my identity. It's not some quality I have, or Nathan, you promised yourself you would do this. It's not self-talk. It's not my faith even, believe it or not. It's when I think about the people that rely on me. When I think about the people that look up to me and say, I need you, Nathan. My children, the people that I lead with, my community. And you can blow that out and ripple that out to the world. But I would encourage you to really think about the people that are closest to you, that depend on you to show up, that depend on you to put your best foot forward and to do quality work and to just be there for them. It's really interesting. It's really humbling how all of a sudden it's not about you, and yet you have all this energy. You stop thinking about what's in it for you. You're not just dialed into your favorite radio station, coming to you live from WIIFM. What's in it for me? You start thinking about what's in it for everybody else. And of course you can consider yourself in that, and you should. You should integrate these things. It's okay that you're going to make money if you work hard. It's okay that you're going to look great if you put in the work in the gym and sacrifice, and eating unhealthily. So with a sort of foundation, a core, a prerequisite of thinking about who you are and whose you are. And for me, that's twofold, because that's me belonging to God. That's also me belonging to my family. There's people that I belong to, just like my children belong to me. I belong to my children. They need me. They need me to provide. They need me to deliver. They need me to be around, and to be around with a good attitude, to be around in a healthy state of mind. So if you're in this moment thinking, where can I find the energy to make the sacrifices necessary to have the thing that I want, the outputs? Where can I get the renewable resource that will put me in a habitual state of input so that I can later have the output? I would encourage you that you don't have to look too far. You just got to look at the people around you. And if at this stage in your life you haven't built an inner circle, you're not really in touch with your relationships and how they're impacting your life and how you're impacting their life, I would get really real about that, because you and I, we're guilty by association. We're guilty as to who we hang out with. We've all heard it before, right? You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. That's real stuff. Very real. So yeah, you don't have to kick your cousin out of your group chat just because he's negative sometimes or, has different political views than you. But I wouldn't encourage you to try to change your friends. It's a lot easier to just change your friends. So look for mentorship. Look for circles that you can surround yourself with where you're not the smartest person in the room. And when you put yourself in those positions, now you're poised for purpose. Now you are properly calibrated for impact. And it's sort of within that setup, this who am I and who am I with and who am I to these people and who are they to me and why are we in existence together and why are we journeying together and why are we on this path together? And with this who, why, 1-2 punch, collaboratively, you can start to sacrifice. And I know that sounds like not very good news, right? It's sort of this dramatic buildup, and it's like, and then, wait, there's more. You get to start sacrificing. But hey, that's when you're living. There's a reason why people join the military, have these incredibly traumatic events in their life, going to war, losing their fellow soldier in battle, come home to America, come home to the homeland where things are comfortable and things are safe and they're living well and they're miserable. And sadly, as we know, many of them take their lives. I mean, that's wild. So if it happens for people that have PTSD, that have gone into some of the gnarliest places in the world and seen some of the most challenging things, and then they get around comfort and they get around cush living and they're miserable, well, that's just as true for you and I that aren't in the military, that haven't sacrificed or served. And in case I didn't say this yet, thank you for those of you that have. My oldest brother, the oldest of the 9 children, I had the honor just last year, it was just this time last year, to narrate, essentially be like the MC of his retirement, 22 years in the Marine Corps as an officer. 2 tours in Iraq. He's been to many war zones. He's been to Africa like 100 times. I mean, he's made major, major sacrifices, both personally, on his body, his family. I mean, there's a lot there. So I think it's relative. And I think right now on Memorial Day, when better a time to sober up to the fact that whatever business you're building, whatever career you have, whatever job or, project you're working on, it is nowhere near as hard as serving your country. It is nowhere near as hard as leaving your loved ones and going into the line of fire and possibly losing it all, your life. And then for me as a Christian, the ultimate sacrifice is what Jesus did on the cross. I think about that every day. I think about how colossal that is. And I know there's different beliefs that people listening have, so I won't go too far into that right now. But you do need to find something and someone to create relativity to, so that when you don't feel like picking up the phone and making another call to a prospect, you go, well, I'm not doing it for the commission. I'm not doing it for the promotion. I'm doing it for these people. I'm doing it for this person. And I would be really intentional, but be generous. Meaning, think about how it affects your boss. Well, why would I care if my boss gets a promotion for my success? Because they've mentored you. They've helped you. And don't you want to be in a position like that one day? So you got to be like JFK said, don't ask what your country can do for you. Don't ask what your company can do for you. Ask what you can do for your company, what you can do for your leadership, what you can do for your family, what you can do for your community. So with this personal responsibility, then we make sacrifices. We kill the alternative. We say, I'm not turning back. I've burned the ships. I'm doing the damn thing. And yeah, here's the deal. Sometimes it's gonna suck. Do you think I wanted to record videos all Memorial Day weekend? No. But I do want to serve the team that I've built, and that's what duty called. So I got it done. Do you think I don't want to be on the beach with my children? And look, I'm not saying do this every weekend. Obviously, that would be wildly unhealthy. But sometimes duty calls. And the people that do the things that are hard now, later get the payoff. I've heard it this way. You can play now and pay later, or you can pay now and play later. But either way, you got to pay. Either way, you've got to sacrifice. And then be real about that. Be real about the fact that you don't get it back. I don't get this weekend back. It's gone. I made my choice. So I'm going to make sure that those videos I made crush, that this podcast episode has an impact, that somebody's encouraged by it, that somebody's inspired by it. So you got to show up in those moments and not try to balance them both or be in two places at once. Don't try to straddle the line. Be laser focused on the thing that you're doing and crush it, dominate it, rock it, build it, get it done, make it happen. And then go relax and really relax, turn up, get lit. I don't know, whatever your jam is, or sleep. So in kind of rounding third base here today on episode 22, hopefully I'm provoking some thought and encouraging you to do it. But also, I know there's people listening that have done it, that are doing it. And I think it can be tempting sometimes to think that you can somehow recover that you could maybe salvage it, whatever it is. The reality of it is, it required a sacrifice. And if someone else in your life didn't make that sacrifice for you to have the thing, well, then you're the one. You are the chosen one. And I feel like that in my life. I feel like I have to do these things, that this is duty, that duty calls, because nobody else did. And I am not confused or wishy-washy around what it really means to sacrifice, to kill the alternative. And from that sort of atonement, from that death, comes life, comes the ability to flourish, comes the ability to grow. That's a pretty powerful thing. We see it in nature. We see it in theology. We see it in practices of worship historically. And, just because it's 2025, nothing's new under the sun. So wrestle with all of this, process with all of this. And then here's some like how-to action for you. Take inventory. I'm constantly taking inventory of my relationships, of the areas of my life that I want to improve. And the sheer awareness puts you like halfway there. And then get real about the fact that some things are dead and gone. Let's make the best of it. And some things are dying on the vine and need to be pruned. Because without that pruning, without that killing, without that nipping the bud, you can't get fruit. You can't get abundance. You can't get growth. So whether it's something that's already happened that needs to be laid to rest, or it's something that is clearly dead wood and the trees need to be shaken and the flowers need to be ready for blooming, then get to work and go through that pruning process. It's brutal. It's painful, but maybe it's because it's Sunday and I went to church, so I'll hit you with a little bit more of the Bible, and then I'll close out. The verse around pruning, it's pretty hardcore. It essentially says, all those dead branches, throw them into the fire, cast them into the fire. They're useless to me. This is God speaking. This is God speaking. I only want, he says, this is super paraphrased, those that I can prune. I prune the ones I love. I prune the ones that I have a future for, a plan for, a purpose for. The other ones, I don't know them. They're dead to me. And that's brutal, right? And you and I aren't God. But for that reason, there's some pruning that needs to happen in our organizations. There's some pruning that needs to happen in our relationships. There's some pruning that needs to happen in our hearts and our lives and our habits. And when that pruning occurs, and if you've done this before, you know exactly what happens. It hurts so good, and then things come out of that you couldn't even predict. There are things today that are coming together, that are growing, that are taking root, that are blossoming because of a pruning process that I went through 2 years ago, almost to the day, June 1st of 2023. My core hit a brick wall and damn near went out of business entirely. And at that point, I was 5 years into it. Actually, preceded by 2 years before that. I was 7 years into it. And I went, oh my gosh, this might all go away. And I had a real hard decision to make. And I won't get into the specifics because that'll take time. But it was an absolute pruning process. And I made sure that the people around me understood that I was making that decision, that I was burning the ships, that I was killing the alternative, and they supported me emotionally, spiritually, some even financially. And in righting that ship, and just to not be too dramatic, it was essentially to make the company profitable, to right size it, to get it nimble, and to work out all the debt, and to make sure that all the things were buttoned up. And it sucked. It was miserable. At times I thought, I want to die right now. This is so bad, or I want to absolutely give up. So if you're in that moment in life where you're feeling like, man, life is rough right now, life is tough right now, you might be carrying weight that you've got to let go of. There might be branches that are dead and they need to be pruned. They need to be cut off. They need to be thrown into the fire so that you can multiply and you can flourish. So with that, much love. I hope this was helpful for you today. Ned's out there and he's going to step in here and we're going to crush episode 8. Check out the Chairman podcast. It's really powerful. And because Ned's involved, it's not as much like, oh, the meaning of life, which is how I like to talk, whatever. It's much more tactical, but we get into that too. So appreciate you. Much love for all of those who have served our country, past and present. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Much love. God bless. God bless America. Happy Memorial Day.